In this video, I've got a very interesting gap down. There are a lot of mixed signals both ways, and I'm going to explain the relationships between different signals that you see, because some are more powerful than others, and the obvious overriding factor, if you haven't understood it before from previous videos, is that your wide lines, your power orange and green, your trend triple, maybe I should just call that the trend trio, pink, yellow, and blue, and then of course your swing red and green. Those lines just give us great insight into pressures, and when they're running under zero, things just go down, and when they're running above zero, things just go up. And we're going to be in the example that I'm showing you is CMRX, and I'm going to flip over to the video now, or to the chart now. And this occurs on Christmas Eve 2015, December 24th. And the red vertical line marks, I have my, if you haven't, you've more than likely seen it before, but I typically do a split chart. And this is the zip chart and the power chart on the right, and the trend chart and the swing chart on the left. And the red lines, the red vertical lines, mark the same spot on the chart. And typically, as a trader, you would have your monitor standing up, and you'd have just a single chart looking at it on whatever number of charts you chose. But it basically drops from about $35 to $7 overnight. It's a huge drop. And I'm going to start by explaining the indicators that would tell us that it's going to go up, and then I'll explain the indicators that it's going to go down, and then I'll highlight a few other things or combinations of things, and pull it together, because I've actually, while I've been sitting here looking, I spotted another thing that I didn't see before. But let me begin in the zip chart over here. We in our pink, blue, red, and yellow lines, we have a high right leg W. And as you've told me before, the high right leg W's, or I've told you before, they're very good to indicate a uptrend or a movement in the positive direction. And that's even verified by more when you look at the fact that we have on the bottom, we have the green in a top of cycle lower movement, and the green is at zero with a green candle. That's another indication that the market would move up in that direction, or at least we would anticipate that it would move up in that direction. One of the let me stay on this a little bit. One of the difficulties with this is with that comment about the green at zero and the green candle, is that we're in a long consolidation period, and we don't know whether we're going to get out of it and go up, or for that matter go down. I mean, we obviously know it's going down, but when you're thinking about the situation, you're uncertain. But one of the key elements to this is that we have the vast majority of our of our lines are running under the 50. And we have, right here, we have a strong pink, zip pink peak. And the pink, zip pink follows the price, or at least the way it's coded, it's designed to follow the price, more so than possibly any other line. And what happened, or what we see, is that we've got a, I mean, think about zip red and zip gray for a moment. They're usually the fastest reacting lines, and typically you see the red and the gray above the pink because they move so fast. But this thing is running so depressed that those lines, they make it, obviously they make it above the 50, but they're not high. They're just really low. And so that gives us a good insight into what's happening. You also have some, as I've mentioned before in previous videos, the zip blue and yellow run together. And you can see that they do that here, and they really separate here, obviously, right up until that day that we have a huge gap down. The zip blue is at 48 and the zip yellow is at 17. So you got about a 30-point spread on that day. And typically, now not always, but typically the blue comes back to the yellow. Now in this case here, the blue goes back down to the yellow. If I move this line over here, the blue came back down to the yellow. If I move this line over here, the blue went up to the yellow. So it doesn't always happen, but if you had to pick one side, the blue usually comes back to the yellow. Going down to the power chart, you've got your pink and blue and cyan and red and the white in a high right leg W. That is an overwhelming sign that this candle is going to go up tomorrow. And that's why this one is so fascinating, because we're getting a large number of mixed signals. Over on the swing chart, you've got the cyan and the pink and the yellow in a, I turn this up, the yellow is just barely in a high right leg W. And on the trend chart, we have the red in a bottlenose. If you are familiar with what a bottlenose is, it's basically 3 lines down, and it made me think of a bottlenose dolphin, like when that line crosses over there. It's kind of like where the eye socket would be in the hump on the fish's head. But what a bottlenose is it has a lot of power in it, and typically that power goes up. So we've got a red candle here in the trend chart that says it's going up. We've got green coming down, and if you look at it, the green actually comes down and is between the yellow and the pink, and that's a very key reversal pattern going up for the for any situation. Okay, so just I mean, there's a tremendous amount of sign that says this thing is going up. All right, now I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that tells us differently. Oh, there's one other one here. We've got the gray line is in a not quite a, it's not in a bottlenose, it's actually in a TOC, I guess, on that day. So that would indicate that we're on a high. Let me rephrase that. We're on a lower high on the gray, trend gray, so that tells us that we're going to be going down a little, or we're going to be going down. In the swing chart, let me back up. On the trend chart, we have the three indicators that, like if you go right over to this day, you've got 4 more days where the blue candle goes up, and it just continues each day. The angle changes of that. It's like in a blue arch, and those are very typical of drops. When I'll show you, there'll be other examples that I'll show you where you have an arch of, it's typically a 4 or 5 day arch where they just go up and then they just crash down. So that's real typical. And what's very typical of this line, of this setup, is that the yellow, pink, and blue have not crossed zero. In fact, the yellow is at 0.57, minus 0.57. So that tells you, or tells us when we look at this, that it is going down. The other really big signal that it tells us it's going down is your gray is coming up, your swing gray is coming up, and your yellow is going down. Now this actually is an inverse relationship, because the gray line is typically up above zero and it's high up above, and then when we get that first signal of the yellow starting down, the yellow is usually up above zero as well. But keep in mind, when stuff happens below the zero line, it a lot of times pushes things down. So and this alert, that this gray up, yellow down in the swing chart, this alert is probably in the top 10 of our setups. Out of all the setups that we have, this swing, it happens going both ways. The gray is going down and the yellow starts going up, and that's the first indication that we're having an uptrend. But now in this case here, the gray is going up and the yellow is going down, and that's our first indication of a downtrend. And we just didn't expect that it was going to drop, $30 or whatever in one night. Over on the power chart, we have the green line actually running up above the orange line. And we have divergence in the power yellow and the power white. The yellow's going up and the white's going down. And when that happens, we know that something's going to happen. It oftentimes happens the next day. Sometimes it's 2 days away. Not very often it's a third day, but usually it's the next day. And also we have the orange and the green running at -1. When the orange and the green run at -1 and lower, typically to about 3.5, things typically, you can be going, the green line can be above the orange going up, and it can be going up for a long time with the price going down. Because even though it slowly meanders up, it for some reason in that range under 1, and right now your power orange is at -0.99 and your power green is at -0.91. So it's only 0.08 of a point apart, and that tells us a lot about the angle that it's going up to, because it crossed looks like a couple 3 days ago. But one of the key indicators on this here is we almost always get a lot of what I'm talking about now is the separation of the zip yellow and the zip, I said that wrong, the power yellow and the power white. when those two are divided by the power green and orange, things usually happen. And that is what I mean to say is that when either the white or the yellow, power white or power yellow, usually, and the power yellow is usually stronger, cross over the power orange and green, or zero, there's usually a nice green candle that day. In this case here, it didn't cross over, it's going down. But one of the key elements of this, of looking at this here, is you have a high M in the power yellow. This doesn't happen too often when it's below zero, or much less when it's below your green and orange lines in the power chart. The other factor is it's not a straight high M. The high M has a flat top to it, or the typical low angle peak that we talk about, that hey, it's going to be a downtrend coming up, or it's going down tomorrow. And so that's a big issue inside of this observation. Now, what I'm going to do is I want to comment on strengths, because we have the power orange and green at -1. We have the swing red and green. They're narrowed together. They're probably 1/10 the width that they are over on the wide sections, like possibly right over here for sure. Maybe not that much here, but the green and red have come really close together, and that's when things happen if you haven't noticed it before, or I haven't mentioned it before on a previous video. And then of course we have our yellow, pink, blue on the trend chart that look like they're going for a second downward turn because they're not crossing the zero line. Now, when you think of the long-term trend lines, when for example the yellow is running under zero, things go down. When it's running over zero, things go up, or have a tendency to stay up or come up slowly, at least if the yellow line is flat. Either way, they go down slowly if the yellow's under the zero. But the point I'm trying to tell you, and I'm not sure what a good comparison might be, is, but there's just a power that exists in the long-term trend lines, and that power pulls things in, and in this case it pulled it way down. I don't know what happened in the stock. I never looked at any news or anything, and it really doesn't concern me. But what I see here is I guess the relationship might be to like a little 10-horse fishing motor boat to a great big inboard ski boat that drags 3-4 skiers at a time. Obviously, you can look at those two boats and see the huge difference in the power, but you may not sense that power when just look at wide lines on a chart, and you need to get used to that because it tremendously influences what's going on, especially when everything is down. Now I'm going to point out the key elements. If I looked at this thing and analyzed it, and I'll tell you this is one of the hardest ones I've done or looked at, but there are some that have much more power than others. or let me say there's a combination of a few of them that just add enough power where I can tell that this thing is going down and not going up, even though we have many upward indications. But keep in mind, those upward indications, like in this case here, your upward indications in the zip chart are below zero. Okay? But here are the biggest ones that come to mind that tell me that this is going to drop. And I guess the number one is the swing chart. We have a gray swing going up. We have a swing yellow going down. Now this is in an inverse relationship, as I mentioned before. Usually your gray is above the yellow, but the principle is the same. So that tells me right there that it's going down. Because even if you do, like even right here, your swing Zion and swing pink, they are both in high right leg W's, but they're under zero. And also your leading indicator your pink is a leading indicator, and it's going down. But those were just comments about the chart. The number one thing that I see that would cause me to say this is going down is the swing yellow going down and the swing gray going up. The second one is the trend yellow, pink, blue. They've gone up now 4 or 5 days, and they're basically curved flat. They have very little up movement, as you can see left as I expand that chart, and they are not. They are just. They don't appear to at all to. They don't to be willing to cross the zero line. The thing that I noticed, even right after I started this video, was that your trend gray is in a triple top. Now, trend gray has some divergence recognition factors inside of it, and you can look at all the other indicators on this video. None of them that I can see define a triple top like that trend gray has done, and that is again a big indication of what's happening. Okay, it's just like when you have two humps. You know, here you got a blue in the trend trio. You have a hump here and a hump here. Well, this one's going to go down for another hump, and then it'll come back up, and you oftentimes see that the second hump then makes the crossing, or sometimes the third. And so what I'm trying to say is that when you see like here a triple top, looks like that was 12, 15 days in the making. So that when you have something that takes a long time to complete, oftentimes it'll take the price down a long ways. And so like I could see that thing, I don't think I could see it dropping $30, but I could see it dropping half its price, but over many days, not in one night. So it was just a combination of things that we saw or that we identified with. I mean, we never picked up on this one. We didn't see it, but we're going to revise our scans and see if we can pick up the next one. Now, I want to comment about the one other key one here, and that is in the power chart, the yellow. This yellow being in a high M situation with the flat top on the M is a very powerful indicator as well, especially when it's separated with the white up above the green and yellow, and the yellow, I said that wrong, the green and orange, and the yellow underneath the green and orange. there's just something happens when the white and the yellow are separated by those two. They just perform differently, and I mean it's minor. I mean, it doesn't happen a lot, but you can see the distinction of, it's like those two have a desire to come together somewhat. And so a small percentage of the time they react. Excuse me, and that's what we've seen in this example. But contributing factors, of course, were the 12, 15 days where hardly any of these lines in the zip chart got above 50. And we did have that big pink climb up here. And when you have pink at its highest, things go down, and pink only went up one day and then came down again. And of course you do have the visible sight of, you have two green candles with the second green candle being under the first green candle. And that's just like having a red candle, but it's more obvious. And so that's how I see this this example of a gap. The trick obviously is finding them before they gap, because we have email alert systems that we send out, and we never find all of them, but we hope to find a few. So hope you enjoyed this one, and we'll see you on the next